My birthday was coming up in a month, and I couldn't have been more excited. I've never been the type to make a big deal about birthdays, but this time, everything felt different. My wife, Emily, was completely involved in the planning, making me believe that this would be one of the best celebrations I'd ever had. She was always the organized one, the type of woman who loved planning events, making sure every little detail was perfect. And I'll admit, seeing her so invested in my birthday made me feel special. We had talked about the party for weeks. My family was excited, my friends were looking forward to it, and even my brother, Ryan, who had been busy with work lately, promised he wouldn't miss it. The energy in the house felt lively, and Emily was at the center of it all. She had a list for everything: decorations, catering, drinks, music. Every night, she'd sit beside me with her planner open, discussing different ideas. I was thinking we could do it at that rooftop restaurant downtown, she suggested one evening while scrolling through her phone. The view at night is amazing, and the atmosphere is just right. I grinned, shaking my head. You're acting like this is a wedding, not a birthday party. She laughed, nudging me playfully. Well, it's your 35th, so it has to be special. Plus, you always say you don't like big celebrations, but I know you. You'll love it once everything comes together. And she wasn't wrong. The more we planned, the more I looked forward to it. We even went shopping together to pick out decorations, something I would have never thought I'd do. She'd hold up different sets of table arrangements, asking my opinion. And even though I barely knew the difference, I played along. It was fun, spending time together like that, sharing laughs as she criticized my terrible taste in color coordination. My family was just as involved. My mom called me every other day, asking if I needed help with anything. My dad, who wasn't usually the sentimental type, told me he was proud of me and looked forward to celebrating together. My friends teased me about turning another year older, already planning the drinks they'd force me to take. Everything felt right. Emily even went out of her way to make sure I had a new suit for the occasion. You need to look sharp, she said while dragging me into a store one afternoon. She picked out a navy blue suit, holding it up against me with a satisfied nod. This is it. This is the one. I smirked, glancing at the price tag. Damn, are we throwing a birthday party or attending a gala? Just trust me, she said with that charming smile of hers. You're going to love it. And I did. I loved everything about how she was making my birthday feel important. It had been a long time since I had something to look forward to like this. With work and responsibilities taking up so much of my time, I had forgotten how good it felt to anticipate something joyful. And Emily was the reason for that. Looking back now, I realized just how blind I was. She played her role so well, making me believe that she was just as excited as I was, that she genuinely wanted to celebrate with me. I remember how I caught her smiling to herself while wrapping gifts, how she double-checked every detail of the party venue, how she told me that this birthday would be unforgettable. She was right about that, just not in the way I expected. About a week before my wife's birthday, I started noticing something strange about her. It wasn't anything obvious at first, but little things stood out. She became more distant, lost in thought, like she was carrying some heavy burden. I'd ask her simple questions, and she'd take a few seconds to respond, like she wasn't really listening. She used to smile when I walked into the room, one of those small gestures that meant everything to me. But now it felt like she was forcing it. At first, I thought maybe she was just stressed or overwhelmed. Maybe work was getting to her, or she was worried about planning her birthday. So, I tried to be understanding. I gave her space, thinking she'd talk to me when she was ready. But as the days passed, the distance between us only grew. She wasn't as affectionate anymore. She didn't seem as excited when I held her or kissed her. We used to fall asleep wrapped in each other's arms, but now she turned away from me at night, claiming she was just tired. I couldn't ignore it anymore. Something was wrong. One night, I finally confronted her. I sat beside her on the couch, took her hand, and asked, "Babe, is something wrong? Did I do something?" She looked at me, her eyes filled with something I couldn't quite place. Guilt? Sadness? Regret? I had no idea. She forced a weak smile and shook her head. "No, everything's fine. Don't worry, okay? It's nothing. Everything will be fine." Her words were meant to reassure me, but they did the exact opposite. They only made me feel more uneasy. Because deep down I knew something was coming, and whatever it wasn't good. Birthdays were supposed to be special. A celebration of life, surrounded by friends, family, and the people who truly mattered. That's what I thought as I stood there, watching everyone laugh, drink, and enjoy themselves at the party Emily had organized for me. She had gone all out, decorations, a beautiful cake, music, and a house full of people. For a moment, I thought maybe things between us were finally in a good place again. We had been distant lately, but I chalked it up to the routine, the stress of work, and life pulling us in different directions. Ryan, my younger brother, was there too, as energetic as ever. He was always the loud, charming type, the kind of guy who made friends wherever he went. He had a drink in hand, laughing boisterously, telling stories to my friends like he was the main attraction of the night. I didn't mind. That was just Ryan being Ryan. But there was something else I noticed. Emily was talking to him. A lot. At first, I didn't think much of it. They had always gotten along well, cracking jokes, exchanging casual banter. But tonight it felt different. Every time I glanced in their direction, I noticed how close they were standing. How she would lean in to whisper something. How his hand brushed her arm more than once. It felt too familiar. Something about it didn't sit right with me. I tried to shake it off. It was my birthday, after all. I had friends and family gathered around to celebrate, and I didn't want to spend the night stuck in my own head, overthinking things. So I pushed the nagging feeling away and tried to enjoy myself. But it kept happening. I watched as Emily and Ryan spoke in hushed tones near the drinks table, his eyes locked on hers with an intensity that made my stomach turn. I watched as she laughed at something he said, a laugh that felt different, more intimate. And then, as I was caught in my thoughts, she stepped forward, grabbing the microphone from the DJ's stand. The room quieted. I assumed she was about to give some speech, maybe say something sentimental about me and how much she loved me. But the moment she opened her mouth, my world collapsed. I have something really important to say, Emily announced, her voice carrying through the room. People cheered, expecting something lighthearted. A funny story, perhaps. Maybe a toast to my health and happiness. But then, she turned to me, and everything changed. Ethan, I've been meaning to tell you this for a long time. Her voice wasn't trembling. There was no hesitation, no shame in her expression. She was standing tall, confident, like she had made peace with what she was about to say. I've been cheating on you? The words hit me like a freight train. The room, once filled with laughter, went eerily silent. I could hear someone gasp. Someone muttered, "What the hell?" under their breath. I felt my heart hammering in my chest, but she wasn't done. And not just with anyone, she continued, her eyes flickering toward Ryan. I've been cheating on you with your brother. A collective shockwave rippled through the crowd. Gasps, whispers, stunned faces. My mother, standing near the cake, covered her mouth in horror. My father clenched his fists. My friends looked at me, wide-eyed, as if waiting for my reaction. I turned my gaze to Ryan. He had been standing off to the side, his expression frozen in place. Unlike Emily, he looked guilty. He wasn't prepared for this. He hadn't expected her to announce it like this. But he didn't deny it. He didn't say a single word. That silence told me everything I needed to know. I felt the world spinning around me. My own wife, my own brother, the people closest to me, the ones I should have been able to trust the most, had stabbed me in the back in the most brutal way possible. And they weren't even ashamed. Emily wasn't crying. She wasn't apologizing. In fact, she had one more thing to say. I'm not telling you this to hurt you, Ethan. I'm telling you because I'm leaving you. Tonight. For him. Her voice was calm, like she had rehearsed this moment in her head 100 times. Like she was freeing herself from a burden. Except I was the one who felt like I had just been crushed. More murmurs filled the air. People didn't know where to look. Some stared at me with pity, others at Ryan with disgust. My mother was already in tears. My father looked like he was about to explode. And me? I stood there, breathing heavily, my hands clenched at my sides, trying to process the impossible. I wanted to scream. I wanted to throw something, to demand answers, to make sense of it all. But instead, I just laughed. It wasn't a happy laugh. It was hollow, bitter, filled with every ounce of disbelief I had inside me. You're serious? I finally said, looking at Emily. She just nodded. Then I turned to Ryan. And you? You're just going to stand there like a coward? You don't even have the guts to say something? He finally spoke, his voice barely above a whisper. Ethan, But I didn't want to hear it. You know what? Forget it, I said, shaking my head. You two deserve each other. The party was ruined. People were still staring, whispering, as I turned on my heels and walked out of my own celebration. I didn't need to stay. I didn't need to listen to anything else she had to say. Emily had made her choice. She wanted Ryan? Fine. She could have him. But she would never get the version of me that spent years loving her. She would never see me fight for her again. And Ryan? He would have to live with the fact that he destroyed his relationship with me for someone who had no problem betraying her own husband in front of an entire room of people. As I stepped outside, taking in the cold night air, I realized something. This wasn't the worst night of my life. It was the beginning of a new one. A life without betrayal. Without lies. A life where I could finally be free. It's funny how life works. A year ago, I stood in the middle of my own birthday party, humiliated beyond words. My ex-wife, Emily had taken the microphone and shattered my world in front of everyone. She announced with no shame that she had been cheating on me with my own brother, Ryan, and, to top it all off, she was leaving me for him. At the time, it felt like the worst thing that could ever happen to me. The kind of betrayal that rips the ground from under you and leaves you questioning everything. But now, looking back, I realized that was the best gift I could have ever received. Because it set me free. I walked away from that nightmare, cut both of them out of my life completely, and rebuilt myself from the ground up. I focused on my own happiness, worked on things I had been neglecting, and became a man who no longer let betrayal define him. And then, almost exactly a year later, I found out something that made me laugh out loud. Emily and Ryan had broken up, and the reason? She cheated on him, just like she did to me. I hadn't thought about either of them in months. After the divorce was finalized, I made a promise to myself that I wouldn't waste another second of my life thinking about them. But fate has a funny way of bringing things back around. One night, I was out grabbing a drink with my best friend, Marcos. We were sitting at the bar talking about life, when he suddenly smirked and leaned in slightly. Man, have you heard about Emily and Ryan? He asked, amusement in his tone. I raised an eyebrow. No. Why the hell would I waste my time keeping up with them? Marcos chuckled. Because my friend Karma is a beautiful thing. I took a sip of my drink, gesturing for him to continue. Well, he began, stretching the moment for dramatic effect. Turns out, our dear Emily did to Ryan exactly what she did to you. She cheated on him with some other guy she met at her gym, and when Ryan found out, oh man, he lost his damn mind. I blinked. For a second, I just sat there, letting the information sink in. And then, before I could stop myself, I started laughing. Not just a small chuckle. A full, deep, from-the-gut laugh. It wasn't laughter of revenge or malice. It was laughter of realization. Realization that the universe really does balance things out in the end. Marcos grinned. I knew you'd love that. Tell me everything, I said, leaning in. From what Marcos told me, things between Emily and Ryan started going south a few months after they got together. At first, everything seemed great. They played the perfect couple, going on trips together, posting those cringeworthy soulmate pictures online, acting as if they had found the greatest love story ever told. But deep down, cracks were already forming. Ryan, who always had an ego, assumed Emily's betrayal of me was a one-time thing. That it wasn't about her, but about us, about some flaw in my marriage to her. He truly believed he had won her, that what they had was different. But cheaters don't change. Emily wasn't some innocent woman who had been trapped in a bad marriage. She was a woman who needed constant excitement, who thrived on sneaking around, on feeling desired by someone new. And when the high of her affair with Ryan wore off, she needed another hit. Apparently, she met some guy at her gym, someone younger, fitter, and, according to Marcos, a total douchebag influencer type. She started sneaking around behind Ryan's back, just like she had with me. And then, Ryan caught her, red-handed. Ryan, the guy who stood there at my birthday party like a smug bastard, thinking he had stolen the prize, was now the one being humiliated. The best part? She didn't even try to deny it. When Ryan confronted her, Emily basically shrugged and told him the same thing she told me. It just happened. No remorse. No guilt. Just cold, hard indifference. Ryan was furious. He screamed at her, demanded answers, begged her to explain why. And do you know what she said? Because you were getting boring. I nearly choked on my drink when Marcos told me that. The irony was delicious. Ryan thought he was special. He thought he was different. But he was just another chapter in Emily's pattern of destruction. After that, things went downhill fast for Emily. She tried to make it work with the gym guy, but that relationship fell apart in weeks. Turns out, he wasn't interested in commitment. Just the thrill of taking another man's woman. The moment the chase was over, he moved on to someone else. And Emily? She was left completely alone. She lost me. She lost Ryan. And she lost the home and stability she had so desperately clung to. Meanwhile, Ryan, humiliated, heartbroken, and realizing he had thrown away his relationship with me for nothing, tried to reach out to me. He sent me a message. A long one. He apologized, said he regretted everything, that he realized how badly he had screwed up, how he had betrayed the only person who ever truly had his back. You know what I did? I left him on read. No response. No second chances. Some betrayals are too deep to forgive. A year ago, I thought my life had fallen apart. But standing here now, I see that it wasn't destruction. It was liberation. I'm happier than ever. I found my own peace, built my own life, surrounded myself with people who actually care about me. And, most importantly, I learned my worth. As for Emily and Ryan, they got exactly what they deserved. And that, my friend, is the most satisfying ending of all. When I met Sophia, I thought I had found something special. She was charming, funny, and had this effortless way of making me feel like I was the luckiest man in the world. From the very beginning, I gave her my all. I wasn't rich, I wasn't a model, but I was the kind of man who showed up every day, who cared deeply, and who made sure my partner felt loved. For a long time, I believed we had something solid. I took care of her, both emotionally and in the little day-to-day things. If she had a rough day, I'd surprise her with her favorite meal. If she needed to vent about work, I'd listen attentively, offering support instead of solutions. I remembered all the little details, the way she liked her coffee, the movies she rewatched when she was sad, the way she always needed an extra 5 minutes in bed before getting up in the morning. I made sure she felt safe. I made sure she felt valued. And I thought she was happy. Looking back, there were signs. Small at first, like cracks in a foundation that you don't notice until it's too late. Sophia wasn't as affectionate as she used to be. The good morning texts became less frequent. The way she used to greet me with excitement turned into half-hearted hellos. The cuddles at night? Replaced by her turning to the side, scrolling through her phone. I tried to push away the doubts, thinking maybe she was just stressed. Work had been demanding. She had new responsibilities. Maybe that was all it was. But then it wasn't just that. She stopped making an effort in our conversations. I'd ask how her day was, and she'd shrug. Fine. Nothing more. No details, no questions in return. As if talking to me had become a chore. She also started going out more, without me. At first, it was just a girls' night. Then it became every weekend. Then some weekdays. And then she stopped even telling me her plans. I'd come home to find she was already out, only to get a vague text. Out with friends. Don't wait up. I'd ask if she wanted to do something together, plan a date night, go on a weekend getaway. She always had an excuse. She was tired. She wasn't in the mood. She had things to do. But she had energy for her friends. For nights out. For everyone else. One night, I brought it up. Sophia, are we okay? She looked up from her phone, slightly annoyed, as if my question was an interruption. What do you mean? I don't know. You don't really seem here. We barely spend time together anymore. I feel like I'm the only one trying. She sighed. Daniel, you're overthinking. I've been busy. You know how things are? I nodded, forcing a smile. Maybe she was right. Maybe I was overthinking. But deep down, I knew something was wrong. And I had no idea that I was about to find out in the worst possible way. At first, I convinced myself that everything was fine. Relationships have ups and downs, right? Maybe Sophia was just going through a rough patch. Work stress, personal issues, something she didn't want to talk about. But as time passed, I couldn't ignore the shift anymore. She had become distant, emotionally absent, like she was physically there, but her mind was somewhere else. Our conversations, which once felt effortless and full of excitement, had turned into forced small talk. How was your day? Fine. Everything okay? Yeah, just tired. That was it. No details. No curiosity about my day. Just empty, one-word responses that killed any chance of a real conversation. And it wasn't just words. Her actions spoke louder. I still made the effort. I still planned date nights, brought her small gifts, cooked her favorite meals. I wanted to remind her that I cared, that we had something worth holding on to. But she barely noticed. When I surprised her with dinner, she gave me a quick "thanks, babe," before looking back at her phone. When I tried to hold her hand while watching a movie, she pulled away casually, like she hadn't even realized I was trying. The physical affection had dwindled to almost nothing. At night, she no longer curled up against me. Instead, she turned away, her phone screen lighting up her face as she scrolled through social media or texted someone else. I'd reach for her, place a hand on her back, only for her to shift slightly, just enough to create distance. That hurt the most. It wasn't a fight. It wasn't a breakup. But it was like I was slowly being erased from her world one moment at a time. I noticed she was spending more time out, always with her friends, always with something important to do. Hey, let's do something this weekend, I suggested one night. She barely looked up. Oh, I already have plans with the girls. What about next weekend? Not sure yet. I might be busy. Busy. She was always busy, but only with everyone else. The girl who once used to light up when she saw me now barely acknowledged my presence. If I didn't reach out, she wouldn't. If I didn't initiate a hug or a kiss, she wouldn't even think about it. I tried to convince myself it was just stress, that maybe I was the one being too needy, too sensitive. Maybe she just needs space, I told myself. Maybe I should back off a little and let her come to me. So I did. I stopped texting first, stopped planning things, stopped trying so hard. And what happened? Nothing. No effort from her side. No, hey, I miss you. No, are you okay? No sign that she even noticed the shift. I had become an afterthought in my own relationship. But I still wasn't ready for what was coming next. Because soon, I'd find out the real reason behind her distance. And it would change everything. I'll never forget the day I found out. The moment my world shifted. It was a regular afternoon. Nothing unusual. Nothing out of place. I was at home, scrolling through my phone, when a message popped up from my friend Marco. Dude, I wasn't going to say anything, but you need to hear this. I don't know how else to tell you. Attached to the message was a voice recording. I hesitated. My heart was already beating faster, my instinct screaming that whatever was in that recording wasn't going to be good. I pressed play, and within seconds, my stomach dropped. It was Sophia's voice. Ugh, I just don't know what to do, she was saying, her tone exasperated, almost annoyed. Like, Daniel is sweet and all, but honestly, I'm only still with him because I feel bad for him. My chest tightened. He's just, I don't know. He tries so hard, it's kind of pathetic. Like, he always wants to do these cute little things for me, and I have to pretend to care. But girl, it's exhausting. I don't even love him. I don't think I ever did. Laughter. A second voice, her friend. Then why don't you just leave, the friend asked. Sophia sighed dramatically. Because it's comfortable. He pays for things, he's reliable, and honestly, I don't have anything better lined up right now. Plus, you know how people would react if I dumped him? They'd think I'm a bitch. So, whatever, I'll just stay until I figure something else out. I felt like I had been punched in the gut. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't think. All this time, I had been doing everything I could to be a good boyfriend, to show her love, patience, and support. And this is what she thought of me? Pathetic? Convenient? A backup plan until she figured something else out? The worst part wasn't just the words. It was the way she said them. Cold, careless, almost bored, as if I were nothing more than a chore she had to deal with. I wanted to believe it was some cruel joke, that maybe it was out of context. But deep down, I knew. This wasn't some misunderstanding. This was who she really was. And all this time, I had been blind to it. She kept talking. I should have turned it off, but I couldn't. And don't even get me started on his whole self-improvement thing, she scoffed. He's been trying to go to the gym more, but like it's not going to make a difference. Some people just aren't meant to be hot, you know? Another round of laughter. And his job? He acts like he's working so hard, but he's never going to be successful. He just doesn't have that it factor, you know? I don't even know why he dreams so big. It's kind of embarrassing. That was it. That was the moment something inside me snapped. I had been disrespected, not just cheated on, not just ignored, mocked, used, completely devalued by the one person I trusted the most. I had given her everything, and she saw me as nothing more than an option, a fallback plan, someone to kill time with until she found someone better. I felt the rage rising inside me, but mixed with it was something else. Relief. Because now, I finally saw the truth, and I knew exactly what I had to do. I didn't call her. I didn't confront her. I didn't give her the satisfaction of knowing I had heard every disgusting word she said. I simply disappeared from her life. That night, I blocked her on everything. Instagram, WhatsApp, Facebook gone. No explanations. No warnings. Just silence. Then I packed a bag and left. I wasn't going to sleep under the same roof as someone who saw me as disposable. When she got home, I wasn't there. When she tried to call, it went straight to voicemail. When she messaged me, it never delivered. And when she realized I had completely vanished from her life, that's when the panic set in. But it was too late. I could have stayed angry. I could have let her words destroy me. But instead, I used them as fuel. I hit the gym harder than ever, pushing my body to levels I never had before. I focused on my career, proving to myself that I could be more successful than she ever imagined. I surrounded myself with people who actually valued me, cutting out anyone who didn't. And slowly, but surely, I became the man she never believed I could be. Not for her, not for revenge, but for me. A few months later, she tried to reach me. She sent messages from unknown numbers, emailed me, even tried to ask mutual friends how I was doing. She played the worried girlfriend card. I don't know what happened. He just disappeared. I just want to talk. I miss him. I think I made a mistake. No response, because I wasn't playing her game anymore. A year later, I ran into her at a cafe. She looked different, and not in a good way. Her hair was messy, her clothes thrown together. She looked stressed, tired, and when she saw me, her entire face changed. I could see it in her eyes, regret, because standing in front of her wasn't the same man she had insulted. I was stronger, more confident. I was successful. I looked happy. Without her, she hesitated, then walked up to me. Daniel, wow, you look amazing. I've been meaning to. I didn't even let her finish. I smiled politely, gave her a small nod, and simply walked away. No words, no second chances, no acknowledgement of her existence. And as I left, I knew she felt it, the sting of losing the one person who would have loved her forever. But that wasn't my problem anymore. I had one. If someone doesn't value you, don't beg. Don't argue. Don't seek revenge. Just disappear and become the best version of yourself. Because success is the loudest response. And regret? Regret is the real punishment. I still remember the first time I saw Olivia. It was at a mutual friend's house party, one of those casual gatherings where everyone knows someone, but not necessarily everyone. She was sitting near the window, drink in hand, laughing at something someone had said. There was something effortless about her presence. She didn't need to try to stand out. She just did. From the moment I laid eyes on her, I felt something. An immediate attraction, an unexplainable pull. She had this confidence, this way of carrying herself that made it seem like the world bent around her instead of the other way around. I remember thinking, she's different. And from that moment on, I wanted her. I wish I could say it was love at first sight for both of us, that she felt the same way, that there was an instant spark. But looking back, I realize now it was never truly mutual. I liked her more than she liked me. I was the one who chased her. I was the one who always initiated conversations, who always texted first, who always found excuses to be around her. She was friendly, she responded, but there was always this distance, as if she was interested but not entirely invested. And yet I ignored it. I told myself, she's just guarded. She just needs time. But deep down, I knew the truth. She liked me, but she didn't want me the way I wanted her. After weeks of flirting, of me trying to get closer, she finally agreed to go on a real date with me. I was excited more than I should have been. Looking back, I should have questioned why I felt like I had to win her over instead of it happening naturally. That first date was nice. Nothing extraordinary, just dinner at a good restaurant and a long walk afterward. We talked, laughed a little, but there was still something missing. She wasn't nervous. She wasn't excited. She wasn't giving me the same energy I was giving her. At one point, as we walked by a quiet street, I tried to hold her hand. She let me, but she didn't squeeze it back. It felt like she was allowing me to be with her rather than wanting to be with me. But I was already hooked. I ignored the little voice in my head telling me, "She's not as into this as you are." Because I wanted her. And I thought that was enough. We started dating more seriously after that, but the dynamic never really changed. I was always the one putting in the effort. I planned the dates. I surprised her with little things, her favorite snacks, a book she mentioned liking, a song that reminded me of her. I texted first, called first, checked in first. And her? She responded. She showed up. She played along. But she never initiated. She never made me feel like she was afraid to lose me. I was the one afraid of losing her. Looking back, I see it now. I was blind. I confused her tolerance for me as love. She wasn't with me because she felt deeply connected to me. She wasn't with me because I made her heart race. She was with me because why not? I was reliable, I was consistent, I was there. And at the time, I convinced myself that was enough. But the truth is, when someone truly loves you, you feel it. You don't have to guess. You don't have to chase them. Love should feel effortless at least sometimes. But with Olivia, it always felt like I was trying to hold on to something that was barely there. There were so many moments where I should have walked away. Like the time I told her I loved her for the first time. It had been about 6 months into the relationship, and I felt it. I really felt it. She was in my life, and I couldn't imagine a day without her. So I told her, "I love you, Olivia." She hesitated, just for a second. But that hesitation, it was enough. Then she smiled, a small, forced smile, and said, "That's sweet. That's it. Not, 'I love you too.' Not, 'I feel the same way.' Just that sweet." A normal man with an ounce of self-respect would have realized what that meant. But I ignored it. I told myself she was just bad at expressing emotions, that she needed more time. But love doesn't take convincing. If she had really loved me, she would have felt it immediately. Despite everything, we stayed together. Not because she loved me, but because I was easy. I was stable. I was safe. I was convenient. She didn't choose me out of passion. She settled for me out of comfort. And the worst part? I let her. Over the years, things just continued. We moved in together. We made plans for the future. But I always felt it, the emptiness. I wanted to believe we were happy, that our love was real. But deep down, I always knew she didn't love me the way I loved her. And eventually, I would find out the brutal truth, that she didn't just stop loving me. She never really loved me at all. That night felt like any other. I had just gotten home from work, exhausted from the usual grind. I walked through the front door, expecting the same routine. Olivia on the couch, half watching some TV show while scrolling through her phone, barely acknowledging my presence. And that's exactly what I found. She was curled up in the corner of the sofa, phone in hand, completely absorbed in whatever conversation she was having. She didn't even look up when I walked in. "Hey," I said, placing my keys on the table. "Hey," she mumbled, not bothering to make eye contact. I let out a small sigh, forcing a tired smile. "How was your day?" "Fine," she answered flatly, still typing. I stared at her for a moment, waiting for the usual follow-up. "How was yours?" But, as expected, it never came. It had become routine. Me coming home, her barely acknowledging me, a few empty exchanges, and then silence. I was used to it, but that night, something felt off. I didn't know why yet, but I was about to find out. After dinner, Olivia went to take a shower. She left her phone on the couch, face down. Normally, I never touched her phone. I respected her privacy, never questioned who she was talking to, never looked through her messages. But that night, as I walked past the couch, Her phone lit up with a notification. I didn't even mean to look. It was just instinct. And that's when I saw it. A message preview from a contact saved as Mia Redheart. It read, "Just be honest with him, Liv. You don't even like him anymore. Why are you still there?" My heart stopped. My stomach twisted so hard I thought I was going to be sick. I could hear the shower running in the bathroom, the sound of water hitting the tiles, but suddenly the entire world went silent around me. I just stood there, staring at the screen, unable to breathe. You don't even like him anymore. It felt like someone had reached into my chest and squeezed all the air out of my lungs. I picked up her phone. My hands were shaking. I knew I shouldn't, but I had to. I had to know. I swiped the notification open. The messages were all there. Conversations between Olivia and her friend Mia. The kind of things I was never meant to see. "Mia, you can't keep pretending forever." "Olivia, I know, but it's just easier this way." "Mia, but you don't even like him. What's the point?" "Olivia, exactly. I don't like him. I don't even feel anything for him anymore. I don't know why I'm still here." "Mia, then just leave." "Olivia, it's not that simple." "Mia, it is. You just don't want to give up the comfort." "Olivia, yeah, I guess you're right." I felt like my chest was being crushed. She didn't love me. She didn't even like me. I had suspected she had checked out of our marriage emotionally, but to see it in black and white, to see her admitted to someone else, was a different kind of pain. I wasn't her husband anymore. I was just someone who paid for her life. She wasn't staying because she cared. She was staying because it was comfortable. I was nothing more than a safety net. I felt like I was going to explode. The anger, the humiliation, the betrayal, it all built up inside me like a ticking time bomb. I wanted to confront her right then and there. I wanted to storm into the bathroom, shove the phone in her face, and demand answers. But I didn't, because in that moment I realized something. I didn't need answers. I already knew the truth. I needed to clear my head. I grabbed my car keys and walked out the door. The cool night air hit my face, but it did nothing to calm the storm raging inside me. I drove without a destination, my mind spinning in circles, replaying every moment of our relationship. Every time I had tried to fix things, every time I had ignored the red flags, every time I had convinced myself that she was just going through something, it was never temporary. She had never truly been in love with me. And now, I had proof. I ended up at Marcos's house, my best friend, the one person I knew I could talk to about this. When he opened the door and saw my face, he immediately knew something was wrong. "Bro, what happened?" I stepped inside, still gripping my phone so hard my knuckles were turning white. "It's Olivia," I said, my voice hollow. "I found messages. She doesn't love me. She doesn't even like me. She's just staying because it's easier for her." Marcos's expression darkened. "That bitch." I let out a bitter laugh, shaking my head. "I should have seen this coming, man." He grabbed a couple of beers from the fridge and handed me one. "No, don't do that," he said firmly. "You've always been a good guy to her. You gave her everything. If she didn't appreciate it, that's on her." I took a sip, feeling the burn in my throat. "So what do I do?" Marcos leaned forward, resting his arms on his knees. "You already know what you have to do, man. Kick her ass out. She doesn't love you. She doesn't even like you. She's just using you. And now that you know the truth, are you really going to let her keep doing it?" I exhaled sharply. I already knew the answer. I had been wasting my time with someone who didn't deserve me. But now, that ended tonight. I was done, and Olivia was about to find out just how done I really was. I sat in Marcos's living room for another hour, just letting the weight of everything sink in. The beer in my hand had long gone warm, untouched. My mind wasn't racing anymore. It had reached a dead calm, the kind that comes when you've made a decision so final that there's no turning back. I had spent years trying to be the best husband I could be, trying to provide, to care, to support, and for what? To be treated like a convenience? A backup plan? No, that ended tonight. "You sure you want to do this now?" Marcos asked as I stood up, grabbing my car keys. "Yeah," I said, my voice firm. "She thinks I'm just going to keep tolerating this. She thinks she can stay in my house, live off of me, while secretly wishing she was anywhere else. But she's about to learn that I'm not that kind of man." He gave me a nod. No more words needed to be said. I drove back home feeling lighter than I had in years. Not because I was happy, but because I knew I was finally doing what I should have done a long time ago. When I walked through the front door, Olivia was sitting on the couch, her phone in hand, as always. She looked up surprised. "Where'd you go?" "Out," I said shortly. I walked straight past her, into the bedroom, and grabbed a suitcase from the closet. I unzipped it and tossed it onto the bed. The sound was loud, deliberate. "What are you doing?" she asked, standing up and following me. Her voice edged with irritation. I didn't answer. I started pulling her clothes from the drawers and tossing them into the suitcase. "Mark, what the hell?" I finally turned to her, my face completely unreadable. "Pack your things, Olivia." She blinked, stunned. "Excuse me?" "You heard me. Pack your things. You don't like me, right? You don't love me. You don't even know why you're still here. So guess what? You don't have to be here anymore." Her face paled. "Mark, what are you talking about?" she stammered, pretending she didn't know exactly what this was about. I pulled my phone out of my pocket, opened the messages I found earlier, and tossed it onto the bed in front of her. She stared at the screen, at the text between her and Mia, and I watched as her throat tightened. "You read my messages?" she finally said, as if she was the one who had been wronged. I let out a sharp laugh. "That's what you're focusing on right now? Not the fact that you've been sitting here, in my house, pretending to be my wife, while openly admitting to your friend that you don't even like me?" She swallowed hard. She had nothing to say. "You were never going to tell me, were you?" I continued, my voice like steel. "You were just going to keep living here, spending my money, enjoying the comfort of a life I built, while secretly thinking I was pathetic." "Mark, please, don't. Just pack." Olivia wasn't used to this. She was used to control. She was used to me being the patient one, the forgiving one, the one who always tried to fix things. "Not this time. I didn't mean it like that," she tried, stepping toward me. "I was just venting. You know how Mia is. She's always pushing me to say things I don't mean." I stared at her, completely unmoved. "So, when you said you don't like me, that was just a joke? When you said you were only staying because it was easier, that was just venting?" She hesitated. "Mark, please. We've been together for years. You can't just throw that away over some texts." I shook my head, my patience wearing thin. "I didn't throw this away, Olivia. You did. You threw it away the moment you stopped loving me, but still expected me to take care of you. You threw it away the moment you decided that I wasn't good enough for you, but my money was—" Tears started to pool in her eyes. Maybe they were real. Maybe they weren't. I didn't care. "Where am I supposed to go?" she asked, her voice cracking. "That's not my problem," I said simply. "But I suggest you start by going back to your parents' house." Olivia hated the idea of going back to her parents. They weren't the kind of family that let things slide. She had spent years enjoying the comfort of the life I gave her, free from their judgment. If she went back home, they would ask questions. They would see through her bullshit. And she knew it. "Mark, please don't do this," she whispered. "We can fix this." I let out another laugh, a cold, bitter one. "Fix this?" I repeated. "Olivia, there's nothing to fix. You don't love me. You don't even like me. The only thing you like is what I provide for you. And guess what? That ends tonight." Her lips trembled. "I can change." "Too late," I said, completely detached now. She wiped her eyes and finally started packing. 30 minutes later, she stood at the door, suitcase in hand. She looked at me one last time, hoping for some sign that I would change my mind. She found nothing. "Goodbye, Olivia," I said simply. She hesitated, then stepped outside. I closed the door, locked it, and just like that, she was gone. It took me a few minutes to process what had just happened. But when I finally sat down, a strange sense of peace settled over me. I had spent years chasing after a woman who never truly loved me. Years trying to be good enough for someone who didn't even want me. But now, I was free. No more emotional exhaustion. No more walking on eggshells. No more being used. And Olivia? She was heading back to a life she thought she was too good for. She was broke. She was alone. And she was finally facing the consequences of her choices. And me? I was finally living for myself. And for the first time in a long time, I was happy. If someone tells you they don't love you, believe them the first time. Don't beg. Don't chase. Don't let them use you. Because the moment you walk away, that's when you win. And when they realize what they lost, you won't even care. When I saw Emily, it wasn't in some fancy restaurant or through mutual friends. It was at the supermarket of all places. It was one of those ordinary evenings when I stopped by after work to grab a few things. I wasn't paying much attention to anything except my shopping list, walking down the aisles, thinking about what I needed for the week. I was standing in the dairy section, reaching for a carton of milk, when I heard a soft voice behind me. "Excuse me, sir. Do you need any help finding something?" I turned around and saw her, Emily. She was wearing the store's uniform, a simple blue polo shirt with the store's logo embroidered on the chest. Her brown hair was pulled back into a ponytail, and she had this bright, warm smile that immediately caught my attention. She wasn't just being polite. There was something genuinely kind in the way she looked at me, as if she truly wanted to help. "Oh no, I think I'm good," I replied, holding up my carton of milk. "Unless you have any recommendations on the best cereal to go with this." She chuckled. "Well, that depends. Are you more of a classic cornflakes guy, or someone who likes a little adventure?" That simple exchange turned into a 5-minute conversation. It was casual, easy, and for some reason, I found myself lingering in that aisle longer than I needed to. There was something about her presence that made me feel comfortable. Before I left, I thanked her for the help and went about my shopping. But as I walked toward the checkout, I couldn't shake the feeling that I should say something more. Normally, I wasn't the type to flirt with random strangers, but something told me that if I didn't try now, I'd regret it. So, as she bagged groceries at one of the registers, I walked up and said, "Hey, I don't usually do this, but would it be weird if I asked for your number?" She paused, looking at me for a moment, as if trying to read whether I was serious. Then, to my surprise, she smiled and grabbed a pen. "It would be weird if I said no, wouldn't it?" she teased, writing down her number on my receipt before handing it to me. That was how it all started. A random trip to the supermarket turned into one of the most meaningful relationships of my life. From the moment we exchanged messages that night, we clicked. There was never any awkwardness or hesitation. Conversation flowed effortlessly between us. We started texting constantly, and within a week, we had our first date at a small coffee shop in town. Emily was different from anyone I had ever met. She was warm, funny, and had this way of making even the most mundane conversations feel exciting. She had big dreams, too. She didn't plan on working at the supermarket forever. She wanted to go back to school, study business, and one day open her own store. I admired that about her. She wasn't just coasting through life. She had goals, ambitions, a vision for the future. Our dates became more frequent. Dinner at small restaurants, walks in the park, late-night phone calls where we'd talk until one of us fell asleep. I had been in relationships before, but nothing felt quite like this. With Emily, it was easy, natural. 3 months into dating, she started spending more time at my place. She'd bring an overnight bag, then slowly, more of her things started appearing. Her toothbrush in my bathroom, her favorite blanket on my couch. It wasn't long before it just made sense for her to move in completely. I remember the night we made it official. We were sitting on my couch, watching some show on Netflix, when she casually said, "I think I left more clothes here than I have at my own place." I laughed. "Yeah, at this point, you might as well just move in." She turned to look at me, her eyes searching mine, trying to gauge whether I was serious. "Would you want that?" she asked softly. "Yeah," I said, without hesitation. "I want you here, Emily. I want us to build something together." She smiled, and just like that, it was decided. The next weekend, she packed up her things and moved in with me. Living together was an adjustment, but it was also one of the happiest times in my life. We decorated the apartment together, making it feel like home. She brought her personality into the space, little decorative touches that I never would have thought of myself. She loved scented candles and soft, warm lighting, making the apartment feel cozy in a way it never had before. We settled into a comfortable routine. Mornings together with coffee, late nights watching our favorite shows, cooking dinner side by side in the kitchen. We had our share of disagreements, small things like who forgot to do the dishes or which side of the bed we should sleep on, but we always found a way to laugh about it in the end. Emily pushed me to be better, to think bigger. She encouraged me to go after a promotion at work, helped me pick out suits for interviews, and even practice questions with me the night before important meetings. I supported her dreams, too. When she finally enrolled in her business courses, I was right there cheering her on. For a while, everything felt perfect. We talked about the future, about marriage, and maybe even kids one day. I truly believed we were building something lasting, something unbreakable. But looking back, I can see the small cracks that were forming, the ones I chose to ignore. Emily had always been ambitious, but at some point her priorities started to shift. She became more focused on work, staying late at the office, taking extra shifts, and attending networking events that didn't seem to have an end. I supported her, of course. I wanted her to succeed, but something felt different. She stopped texting as much, stopped sharing little details about her day. There were nights when she'd come home and barely say a word, as if she had mentally checked out from our relationship. I convinced myself it was just stress, that she was working hard to secure a better future for us. But deep down, something didn't sit right. There were nights when I lay awake beside her, staring at the ceiling, wondering if I was imagining things, or if I was slowly losing her. I just didn't know it yet. At first, I thought it was just stress. Life gets overwhelming sometimes, and I knew Emily had been pushing herself hard at work. Late nights, business meetings, weekend events. She had fully immersed herself in the professional world she had always dreamed of. I was proud of her, even though it hurt to see her so drained all the time. But as the weeks turned into months, I started realizing that it wasn't just exhaustion. It was distance. The woman I once held in my arms every night, the one who used to curl up against me on the couch, who used to text me sweet messages in the middle of the day, was now a ghost in our own home. We shared a bed, but we might as well have been strangers. I would wake up in the morning and find her already out of bed, dressed for work, barely glancing in my direction. At night, she would come home late, muttering something about extra hours at the office or networking events, and collapse onto the bed without a word. We didn't talk. We didn't laugh. We didn't touch. I tried to deny it at first. I kept telling myself it was temporary, that things would get better if I just held on a little longer. So I started making more effort, thinking that maybe she just needed to be reminded of what we had. I planned surprise dinners, cooked her favorite meals, even booked a weekend getaway, just the two of us, hoping to rekindle the spark. But every attempt was met with the same coldness. "Thanks, but I have too much work," she'd say. Or, "I'm not in the mood tonight." Or worse, she would simply shrug and go back to her phone, as if I wasn't even there. The rejection chipped away at me, little by little. Every time I reached for her hand, and she pulled away. Every time I tried to kiss her, and she turned her face at the last second. Every time I said, "I love you," and got nothing but silence in return. I couldn't ignore it anymore. Something was wrong. Very wrong. I remember the exact moment when my world collapsed. It was a Friday night, and she had come home even later than usual. I had been sitting on the couch, waiting for her, my mind racing with everything I wanted to say. I needed answers. As soon as she walked through the door, I stood up and faced her. "Emily," I said, my voice tense. "We need to talk." She sighed, tossing her purse on the counter like she was already exhausted by a conversation that hadn't even started. "About what?" she muttered, not even bothering to look at me. "About us," I said, stepping closer. "I can't keep pretending like things are fine. You're distant. You barely talk to me. You don't even look at me the same way anymore." For the first time in months, she actually met my gaze, and the look in her eyes sent an icy chill through my entire body. It wasn't anger. It wasn't sadness. It was indifference. She exhaled sharply and crossed her arms. "There's no point in pretending anymore, Gabriel," she said. "I don't feel the same way about you." I felt like I'd been punched in the gut. My breath caught in my throat. "What?" I whispered, barely able to process her words. "I don't love you anymore," she continued, her voice disturbingly calm. "I don't want to kiss you. I don't want to hug you. I don't want to be in this marriage anymore." Her words hit me harder than I ever thought possible. It was like someone had ripped my heart out and crushed it right in front of me. "But why?" I asked, my voice trembling. "Emily, we built a life together. We've been through so much. How can you just—" "I met someone else." She cut me off. That was the final blow. I felt the blood drain from my face. My hand started shaking. Someone else? I repeated, my voice barely above a whisper. She nodded, as if she was talking about something trivial. My boss. It was like my entire reality shattered in that moment. Her boss. The man she had been working so many late nights with. The one she had talked about in passing, mentioning how charismatic he was, how successful he had become at such a young age. I had never thought twice about it. Why would I? She was my wife. I trusted her. How long? I forced myself to ask, my voice hollow. She hesitated for just a second. A few months, she admitted. I stumbled backward, as if the weight of her betrayal was physically pushing me down. Months. Months. All this time, while I had been lying awake at night wondering why she was acting so distant, she had already moved on. I swallowed hard, trying to keep my emotions in check. But it was impossible. So what now? I asked bitterly. You're just going to leave me for him? She nodded, as if it was just that simple. He can give me things you can't, Gabriel, she said, with a tone so casual it made my stomach turn. He's successful, confident, wealthy. That's when I realized the full truth. It was never about me. It was never about us. It was always about what I could provide. And now that she had found someone richer, more powerful, she had no use for me anymore. I felt like I was going to be sick. So that's it? I asked, my voice breaking. After everything we've been through, after everything I've done for you, you're just walking away. She didn't even hesitate. Yes. And with that, she picked up her purse, walked past me, and headed toward the bedroom to pack her things. I stood there, frozen in place, my mind struggling to catch up with the reality unfolding in front of me. She was really leaving me, not just for another man, but for a paycheck, for status, for a version of life she thought she deserved. I wanted to yell. I wanted to break something. I wanted to make her feel even a fraction of the pain she was putting me through. But all I could do was stand there as she walked out of my life. The moment she closed the door behind her, everything inside me shattered. I collapsed onto the couch, staring at the spot where she had been just moments before, and felt a wave of despair crash over me. I had lost her. I had lost the woman I thought I would spend my life with. And worst of all, I had never felt more worthless in my entire life. The night Emily walked out of our home, leaving me for her boss, was the worst night of my life. I barely slept. My mind kept replaying every moment of our relationship, every sign I had ignored, every time I had chosen to trust her instead of questioning her sudden distance. But as the hours passed and the darkness of the night gave way to the pale glow of dawn, something inside me changed. The pain didn't go away, but it evolved. It turned into something sharper, something colder. I wasn't going to be the man she left behind, broken and humiliated. No, I was going to make sure she regretted every choice she made. I knew I had to be smart. Revenge is best served cold, and I had to ensure that when my strike came, it would be devastating. No half measures. No emotional outbursts. Emily had chosen her new life with her boss, but she had no idea that she had left me with all the ammunition I needed to destroy both of them. I spent the first few days after she left digging into everything. Her finances, her workplace, her online presence. Emily was careless. She had used our shared laptop for years, logging into social media, email accounts, even bank accounts without ever clearing the save passwords. Within hours, I had access to everything, and what I found only fueled my desire for vengeance. Emily's boss, let's call him Mark, wasn't just some wealthy businessman. He was married, with kids, and his company had a strict policy against workplace relationships, especially between superiors and subordinates. Bingo! The first thing I did was compile every single message, email, and transaction I could find between them. They had been meeting in hotels, dining in fancy restaurants, and even taking weekend business trips together, all while his wife and kids were at home, completely unaware. With all this evidence in hand, I anonymously sent everything to Mark's wife. Every text, every receipt, every photograph. I detailed exactly how long the affair had been going on and provided proof that their little romance had started while Emily was still married to me. The fallout was instantaneous. Mark's wife didn't just confront him, she exposed him. She filed for divorce immediately and, Thanks to a prenup, Mark was about to lose a significant portion of his wealth. His reputation was shattered. His social circle collapsed. But I wasn't done. Using another anonymous source, I leaked the affair to Mark's company's board of directors. Given their strict policies, he was immediately suspended pending an investigation. With the proof I had, there was no way he was coming out of this unscathed. Emily had left me for a man who now had no wife, no job, and a tarnished reputation. Emily had always relied on my financial stability. She had lived comfortably in our home, spent money freely, and had never once worried about bills because I always took care of everything. So, naturally, when she left, she assumed she would be just fine. She was wrong. Before she even had time to settle in her new life, I had already removed her from everything. Our joint bank accounts, the credit card she used, and even the lease on our apartment, which was solely in my name. When she left, she took nothing but her clothes and a few personal belongings, thinking she would be moving up with Mark. But now, with him jobless and going through a messy divorce, she was suddenly on her own. She tried to reach out. At first, the messages were casual. "Hey, I left some things at the apartment. Can I come by and get them?" Then they became desperate. "Gabriel, I need to talk to you. Please, just answer me." I ignored every single one. When she showed up at the apartment one evening, banging on the door, I calmly walked outside, looked her in the eyes, and said, "You made your choice. Now live with it." Then I shut the door in her face. A few weeks later, I got a message from an unknown number. It was Mark. He was furious. Apparently, Emily had turned on in the moment she realized he couldn't provide for her the way she thought he would. She had used him, just like she used me, and when his life collapsed, she jumped ship. She was alone, broke, and desperate. And that's when she finally realized what she had lost. She sent one last message, this time from her own number. "Gabriel, I was wrong. I miss you. Can we talk?" I stared at the message for a while, letting it sink in, the irony of it all. The woman who threw me away like I was nothing, who left me for another man, was now begging to talk. I didn't respond. Instead, I took a screenshot, sent it to Mark, and simply wrote, "Guess she's your problem now." I never heard from either of them again. It's been a year since everything went down. And honestly, I've never been better. I moved out of that apartment, started a new job, and focused on myself. I began traveling, hitting the gym, reconnecting with old friends, things I had forgotten how to enjoy because I had spent so much time trying to fix a relationship that was already broken. And the best part? Emily and Mark are both miserable. Mark never got his job back, and his ex-wife cleaned him out in the divorce. Last I heard, he was working a mediocre job, barely making ends meet. Emily? She bounced between friends' couches for months, struggling to find stability. She had burned too many bridges, and no one wanted to help her. Eventually, she faded into irrelevance. Just another woman who thought she could trade loyalty for money and ended up with nothing. As for me, I've moved on, not just from Emily, but from that version of myself who thought he needed to fight for someone who didn't care. If there's one thing I learned, it's this. Sometimes the best revenge isn't ruining someone else's life. It's making yours so much better that they regret ever losing you. And trust me, Emily regrets it every single day. My name is Lucas, and on my wedding day, I truly believed I was living the happiest moment of my life. It felt like every moment, every detail of that day was the realization of a dream I had nurtured for years. Amanda and I had been together for 2 years, and to me, there was no doubt that she was the woman I would spend the rest of my life with. The ceremony was grand, exactly as we had planned. I made sure to invest everything necessary to make that day unforgettable. Months of preparation, meetings with vendors, visits to event spaces, food tastings, and discussions about every little detail. Amanda had always been completely involved. She seemed excited about every stage of the planning. She chose the flowers for the decorations with a sparkle in her eyes, adjusted the color palette of the wedding with contagious enthusiasm, and spent hours talking about how she wanted everything to be perfect. On the big day, I woke up feeling a mix of anxiety and happiness. I put on my suit under the proud gaze of my parents, who couldn't stop complimenting me. My father told me that this was one of the most important days of my life, and that from that day forward, I would be building my own family. My heart raced at the thought. I was about to start a new chapter with the woman I loved. When I arrived at the church, I was blown away by the decorations. Amanda had truly outdone herself. The white flowers and candles gave the place a sophisticated atmosphere, and the soundtrack we had chosen played softly in the background. I stood at the altar, waiting for her, surrounded by my friends and family, who watched anxiously. And then I saw her walking in. At that moment, everything seemed to fall into place. Amanda appeared at the entrance of the church like a vision. Her white dress was stunning, and the smile on her face made me feel like the luckiest man in the world. My eyes filled with tears as I watched her walk toward me. She held her bouquet firmly, and for a moment, our eyes met. I felt a wave of emotion wash over me, as if all the love we had for each other was concentrated in that one moment. The ceremony was beautiful. The priest spoke about the importance of commitment, true love, and respect between husband and wife. When it was time for the vows, Amanda held my hands and, with an emotional voice, promised to love me, respect me, and stand by my side through every moment of our lives. Her gaze seemed sincere. Her words were spoken with conviction, and I had no reason to doubt that she was speaking from the heart. I repeated my vows with all the certainty in the world, promising to do everything to make her happy by my side. At the end of the ceremony, when the priest announced that we were now officially husband and wife, I kissed Amanda as the guests applauded and cheered. We walked out of the church together, hand in hand, ready for the reception that would celebrate our love. The reception was even more extravagant. We had chosen an elegant venue with a sophisticated buffet and a live band. I saw the joy on the faces of every guest, and it filled me with satisfaction. My friends congratulated me, telling me I looked radiant and that Amanda was the most beautiful bride they had ever seen. My parents were emotional, proud of me and of the family I was starting. During the party, I danced with Amanda, held her in my arms as we spun around the dance floor. She smiled at me, ran her hands over my face, and whispered that she loved me. I couldn't have been happier. I truly believe that this was the most important and wonderful day of my life. Then came the speeches. My best friend spoke about our friendship and how he always knew I had dreamed of having a family. My mother, with tears in her eyes, spoke about how Amanda and I were a perfect couple and how happy she was to see me marrying someone so special. Every word seemed to reinforce the certainty that this wedding was the best thing to ever happen to me. But then, something started to bother me. I noticed Amanda frequently checking her phone, something that had never been common for her. From time to time, she would step away for a moment, as if she was receiving messages that required her immediate attention. At that moment, I didn't want to worry about it. I thought maybe it was something related to the organization of the event, perhaps an issue with the buffet or the vendors. After all, she was a perfectionist and always wanted everything to be flawless. Still, my happiness wasn't shaken. I continued enjoying the party, chatting with guests, dancing with friends and family. I was overjoyed. I saw Amanda talking to some friends, smiling, being complimented by everyone. Everything seemed to follow the script of a perfect day. Then I noticed something different in her expression. For a brief moment, when our eyes met, I felt that something was off. It wasn't exhaustion, it wasn't emotion. There was something there that I couldn't decipher. But again, I pushed the thought aside. After all, it was my wedding, the day I had always dreamed of. I could never have imagined that, on that same night, my life would take an unimaginable turn. I could never have predicted that, behind that smile, Amanda was hiding a secret that would change everything forever. The party continued, lively as ever. Everything still seemed perfect. I was still euphoric, trying to absorb every moment of that special day. Family and friends were happy, laughing, drinking, dancing. Amanda and I seemed like the perfect couple. At least, that's what I thought. However, as the hours passed, I began to notice something strange. Amanda was acting differently. At first, I thought she was just tired from the emotional day, but there was something that didn't make sense. She kept checking her phone, as if she was waiting for an important message. Every now and then, she would unlock it quickly, read something, and then put it away just as fast, always with an expression that oscillated between tension and impatience. I tried to ignore it. Maybe it was something related to the event organization. Maybe she was handling a problem with the vendors or checking messages from friends who couldn't make it. But as the minutes passed, her restlessness grew. When I approached her, she would smile, try to mask it, and kiss me quickly, as if wanting to eliminate any suspicion I might have. But her eyes betrayed something else. I just didn't know what. That's when I noticed the glances around us. Some guests whispered to each other, looking at Amanda with a strange expression. It was as if they knew something I didn't. At first, I thought it was just my paranoia. After all, it was our wedding, our celebration. No one would have a reason to talk about us negatively. But it started to really bother me. The atmosphere had changed. Something was wrong, but I still couldn't put my finger on it. Then Amanda suddenly approached me and said she needed to use the restroom. I simply smiled and nodded, having no idea that this would be the last time I saw her that night as my wife. She walked quickly through the hall and disappeared down the corridor leading to the bathrooms. Minutes passed, then more. I looked at my watch and realized she had been gone for too long. I started feeling uneasy. Was she feeling sick? Had something happened? I decided to wait a little longer, but that uncomfortable feeling inside me kept growing. That's when I noticed more whispers. Some people looked at me with pity. Others looked away the moment they realized I was watching. My heart started pounding faster. Something was happening, and I needed to find out what. Then, my friend Mark rushed over, looking nervous, as if he didn't know how to break some terrible news. He hesitated for a moment, but then finally spoke the words that would change my life completely. "Lucas, I saw Amanda leaving through the back of the venue. She got into a car with another guy." My mind went blank. I couldn't process what Mark had just said. I blinked a few times, trying to grasp the meaning of his words. "What do you mean she left?" I asked, my voice shaking. Mark sighed, his face filled with concern. "I saw her, Lucas. She walked out the back of the venue, looked around as if making sure no one was watching, and then got into a car that was already waiting for her." I felt my legs weaken beneath me. My chest tightened, and my heart pounded in my ears. This wasn't real. It couldn't be. Not on my wedding night. "Are you sure?" I asked, desperately searching for an alternative explanation. A logical reason why my wife would disappear from our wedding reception and get into another man's car. Mark looked me straight in the eyes. "Lucas, I wouldn't tell you this if I wasn't absolutely sure. She's gone, man." I turned toward the guests. Some were still laughing, drinking, dancing, completely oblivious to what had just happened. But others, those who had seen, those who had heard, were whispering, their eyes filled with pity. That's when I knew. The whispers, the glances, the uncomfortable expressions I had noticed earlier. They knew. Someone knew what was happening behind my back, and no one had warned me. I had been standing there like a fool, smiling, celebrating, completely unaware that my new wife had been planning to run away the whole time. A wave of humiliation crashed over me. I clenched my fists so tightly that my nails dug into my palms. My vision blurred, not from tears but from sheer, overwhelming rage. She left, on our wedding night, to be with another man. I didn't even know who he was, but I was going to find out. I don't remember much of what happened after that. I must have walked out of the venue, ignoring the murmurs, the concerned looks, the guests who probably didn't know whether to stay or leave. I must have made it home somehow, though I don't recall driving. All I remember was the crushing silence of my empty apartment. The suit I had picked out so carefully for my wedding day was now wrinkled, my tie loosened, my hands trembling. The house, once a place I had envisioned as the foundation of our future, now felt like nothing more than a hollow structure filled with broken dreams. Amanda didn't call. She didn't text. No explanation. No apologies. Nothing. She was simply gone. For days, I barely left my apartment. I turned off my phone, ignored the knocks on my door, and let the world move on without me. The humiliation was unbearable. People talked. Everyone knew. My family, my friends, my co-workers. They all knew that my wife had abandoned me on our wedding night. I couldn't eat. I barely slept. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw her in that dress, walking toward me at the altar, smiling as if she meant every word of her vows. What kind of person does that? I was drowning in my own misery until, one evening, Mark showed up at my door. He had been trying to reach me for days, and I had ignored every call. But this time he didn't leave. He pounded on my door until I finally let him in. "You need to get up," he said, stepping inside and looking around at the mess I had let my place become. "You can't let her destroy you like this." I wanted to argue, tell him that I was fine, but even I knew that was a lie. Then he said something that made my blood run cold. "I found out who she left with." I straightened up. "Who?" Mark hesitated, but then he pulled out his phone and showed me a picture. It was Ricardo. I stared at the screen, my stomach twisting in knots. Ricardo was an old acquaintance, someone Amanda had casually mentioned before. I had never thought much about him, just another guy she used to know. Turns out, she knew him a lot better than I realized. I had been played, and at that moment, something inside me snapped. I was done being the fool. For weeks, I had been drowning in sadness. But now I felt something different. I wanted justice. Amanda had humiliated me in the worst way possible, and she thought she could just disappear into the sunset with Ricardo without facing any consequences. She was wrong. With Mark's help, I began collecting every piece of information I could about her and Ricardo. I started by tracking down their whereabouts, where they were staying, what they were doing, and most importantly, how they were funding their new life together. And that's when I discovered something interesting. Amanda had access to our joint bank account. I had trusted her completely, so I never questioned where the money was going. But now, looking at the records, I saw it clearly. She had been withdrawing large amounts of cash weeks before the wedding. She had been preparing to leave me all along. That was all I needed to know. I went straight to my bank and closed the account, cutting off all her access to the funds she had so carefully planned to take with her. Then, I reached out to my lawyer to begin the legal process of separating everything we had together, removing her name from every document, every shared property, every financial asset she thought she could use. She had taken my dignity, but I would make sure she left with nothing else. And then for the final blow, I did something I knew would break her. Amanda had always cared about appearances. She had built an image of herself as a devoted, loving woman, someone who had everything under control. So, I decided to expose her. With the proof I had gathered, I made sure that our family, our friends, and everyone who mattered knew exactly what had happened. I didn't need to spread rumors. I had facts. Bank records, messages, screenshots. It didn't take long for word to get around. Her parents were devastated. Friends she had known for years stopped talking to her. Her name became synonymous with betrayal. And as for Ricardo, well, karma hit him fast. Turns out, he had lied to Amanda about his financial situation. He wasn't nearly as wealthy as she thought. Without my money to fall back on, and with his business failing, Amanda found herself struggling within months. She had thrown away everything for a man who couldn't even take care of her. And that's when she came crawling back. It had been nearly a year since she left me, and my life had finally stabilized. I had moved on, built myself back up, and found happiness in being free of her. Then one day she called. I almost didn't answer, but curiosity got the best of me. "Lucas, I made a mistake." I laughed, a genuine, deep laugh. "Yeah, Amanda, you did." She started sobbing, telling me how Ricardo had abandoned her, how she had nowhere to go, how she regretted everything. She wanted me back, but I wasn't the same man she had left standing at the altar. I let her talk, let her spill her regrets, let her cry. And then, when she had said everything she needed to say, I gave her my final words. "Amanda, you were my wife. I would have given you everything, but you threw it all away for a fantasy. And now you expect me to take you back." She begged. She pleaded. But I had already moved on. Goodbye, Amanda. And just like that, I hung up. For the first time in a long time, I felt free. She had destroyed our marriage, but I had destroyed her future. And that, I realized, was the perfect revenge. When I first met Sophia, I thought I had hit the jackpot. She was everything I had ever wanted in a woman. Intelligent, confident, beautiful in a way that turned heads when she walked into a room. But more than that, she had a presence that made you want to be around her. She wasn't just attractive, she was magnetic. I met her at a mutual friend's wedding. I was there alone, nursing a drink, not really expecting much from the night. Weddings always felt like a place where other people found romance, not me. But then I saw her, dressed in a deep green gown, her dark hair falling over one shoulder as she laughed at something someone said. I won't lie. From the second I saw her, I wanted to be the one making her laugh. I didn't approach her right away. I wasn't the type of guy to force conversation just for the sake of it. But as the night went on, our paths naturally crossed, and we ended up at the same table, talking. At first, she was polite, friendly, but distant, like she wasn't entirely invested in the conversation. Still, I kept talking, kept listening, and eventually something shifted. She started asking me questions. She started laughing at my jokes instead of just nodding along. She leaned in just slightly when I spoke, as if she was actually interested. By the end of the night, I had her number, and for the first time in a long time, I went home feeling hopeful. Our first date was simple, coffee at a quiet little cafe on a Sunday afternoon. She wasn't a fan of big, dramatic gestures, and honestly, neither was I. I wanted to get to know her in a way that felt real, without all the artificial expectations that came with fancy dinners and over-the-top planning. It went well, or at least I thought it did. She laughed. She told me about her childhood, her ambitions, the places she wanted to travel to. But there was still a certain distance to her, something I couldn't quite place. Like she was holding something back, keeping a part of herself just out of reach. I told myself it was just her personality, that some people take time to open up. So I kept trying. We went on more dates. Dinners, walks in the park, late-night drives where we talked about everything and nothing at the same time. And eventually she let me in, or at least I thought she did. She would rest her head on my shoulder in the car, trace patterns on my palm when we were sitting together. She sent me messages first sometimes, instead of always waiting for me to text her. It wasn't overwhelming passion, but it was something, and I held on to that something like it meant more than it actually did. Looking back, I think I always knew I liked her more than she liked me. But I ignored it, because when you want something badly enough, you convince yourself of a lot of things. I told myself that she was just more reserved, not cold. I told myself that just because I was the one who always planned dates didn't mean she wasn't excited to see me. I told myself that love grows over time, that maybe she just needed to catch up to the way I felt about her. So I stayed. I put in the effort. I made sure she never had to question if I cared. And eventually, she said she loved me too. I still remember the night it happened. We had been dating for about 6 months, sitting on the couch in my apartment, a movie playing in the background that neither of us was really watching. I don't even remember what led to it. Maybe I had said something sentimental. Maybe she just felt obligated because I had told her before, but she turned to me and, almost hesitantly, said, "I love you." It should have been the best moment of my life. But instead, something about it felt off. Not forced exactly, just flat. Like she had finally decided that I was good enough to love, but not that she had ever truly felt it deep in her bones. And like a fool, I ignored that feeling too. We got married 2 years later. I proposed on a weekend trip to the mountains, on a hiking trail overlooking a valley. It was beautiful, the kind of place where a proposal should feel like something out of a movie. And when she said yes, I convinced myself that I had finally won her over completely. But even on our wedding day, I noticed little things. How she wasn't the emotional, overwhelmed bride you see in movies. How she smiled for pictures, but never really looked at me the way I looked at her. How, even on our wedding night, there was this quiet hesitation in the way she touched me. Like it was expected, but not something she truly craved. But I was happy, so I ignored the doubts. Because I thought love was enough. As time passed, I started to notice it more and more, her growing disinterest. At first, it was small. She stopped texting first. She stopped waiting for me at the door when I came home. She started falling asleep earlier, making excuses to go to bed before I did. Then it got worse. She stopped saying, "I love you," unless I said it first. She avoided long conversations, keeping things surface level. She started sitting on the opposite side of the couch, scrolling through her phone while I sat in silence. I asked if something was wrong. She always said no. Just tired, she'd say. Just a lot on my mind. I believed her, because believing her was easier than admitting the truth. That maybe, just maybe, she had never truly loved me the way I loved her. One night, after coming home late from work, I heard her talking on the phone. She didn't hear me come in, and what I overheard changed everything. I just don't even want to hug him anymore. My chest tightened. It's like, I don't know. Being close to him just doesn't feel good. It's not exciting. It's just there. The person on the other end of the call said something I couldn't hear, and then she laughed like it was funny, like it was a joke that the man she married, the man who had given her everything, had become someone she couldn't even stand touching. I stood there in the hallway, frozen, and in that moment, I realized something. She wasn't just going through something. She wasn't just tired. She had fallen out of love, or maybe she had never really been in love to begin with. And that was the night I made my decision. That was the night I decided to give her exactly what she wanted. From that moment forward, I would ignore her forever. The moment I heard her say those words, I don't even want to hug him anymore, something inside me just shut off. I didn't explode. I didn't confront her. I didn't even finish listening to the conversation. I just stood there in the hallway, staring at the floor, feeling something break inside me. For years, I had been giving my all to this woman. I had loved her, cherished her, gone out of my way to make her happy. And all that time, she had felt nothing. Not love, not affection, not even the basic desire to be close to me. And yet, she was still here. She hadn't left. Because I wasn't just a husband to her, I was convenience. I was the man who made her life easier. The one who took care of things, who made sure everything ran smoothly, so she could live in comfort. And that's when I made my decision. If she didn't want to love me, then I would make sure she learned what it felt like to live without my love. I wouldn't fight for her. I wouldn't beg her to love me. I wouldn't even acknowledge her existence. From that night on, I would ignore her forever. The shift was immediate. The next morning, I didn't say good morning to her when I woke up. Normally, I'd at least give her a soft kiss on the forehead or rub her back lightly before getting out of bed. Not this time. I got up, showered, dressed, and left the room without a word. In the kitchen, she was making coffee, scrolling through her phone like she always did. She barely looked up when I walked in. "Morning," she said flatly. I didn't answer. I just poured myself a cup of coffee, grabbed my keys, and walked out the door. No words, no eye contact, nothing. She probably thought I was just in a bad mood that day, that maybe I was stressed from work or dealing with something personal. But the next day was the same, and the day after that, and the day after that. And soon, she started to notice. I stopped checking in on her during the day. No texts, no calls, no "how's your day going" messages. Before, I used to send her little reminders that I cared. If I was out, I'd pick up her favorite snack or bring home a coffee without her asking. That stopped. If she asked me to grab something for her, I acted like I didn't hear her. "Babe, could you get some almond milk when you stop by the store?" she asked one evening as I grabbed my keys. I didn't even acknowledge her voice. I walked out, bought exactly what I needed for myself, and came back empty-handed. "Did you forget the milk?" she asked, frowning. I shrugged. I wasn't paying attention. For the first time in a long time, I saw confusion in her eyes. She opened her mouth to say something, but then she stopped herself, because she didn't know what was happening yet. Sophia had always relied on me for the little things. Even though she had a job, she liked the fact that she didn't have to worry about bills, groceries, fixing things around the house. I handled it all. So I stopped. The bills that I usually paid right away, I let them pile up. The groceries? I only bought food for myself. One night, she opened the fridge and let out an irritated sigh. "There's nothing here except eggs and some leftovers," she said, turning to me. "Did you forget to buy groceries?" I didn't even look up from my laptop. "Nope." "Then why didn't you get anything?" I shrugged. "I got what I needed." Her eyes narrowed. She was starting to get pissed. "So you didn't think about getting something for me?" I finally looked up. "No. Should I?" She stared at me for a moment, as if waiting for me to take it back, to laugh, and say it was a joke. But I didn't. Instead, I turned back to my laptop, completely indifferent to her frustration. For years, she had taken my care for granted. She had gotten so used to me doing everything for her that she never imagined a world where I simply didn't anymore. And now, She was living in that world. Sophia had never been the kind of woman who responded well to being ignored. She expected me to react when she was cold. She expected me to fight for her attention when she was distant. But now, I wasn't fighting anymore. I was doing exactly what she said she wanted. I was giving her distance. And she hated it. She started trying to get a reaction out of me. She would walk around in her favorite tight dresses, the ones she used to wear when she wanted my attention. I didn't look at her. She would sit next to me on the couch, shifting closer, brushing her leg against mine. I moved away. She even tried starting small fights, just to see if I would argue with her. "Why are you acting like this?" she finally snapped one night. I glanced at her. "Like what?" Like I don't even exist to you." She threw her hands up. "You barely talk to me. You ignore everything I say. You don't even touch me anymore." I leaned back in my chair, studying her. "I thought that's what you wanted." She froze. "What? You said it yourself, didn't you?" I said, tilting my head slightly. "You don't even want to hug me anymore. So why would I bother?" Her face drained of color. Because now, she knew. She knew I had hurt her. From that moment on, everything changed. She stopped acting irritated. She stopped trying to pick fights. She stopped avoiding me and instead started watching me carefully, as if trying to figure out how to fix something she didn't know was broken. But I was already gone. Emotionally, mentally, I had left our marriage the moment I heard those words come out of her mouth. And now, she was the one feeling invisible. She was the one feeling unwanted. She was the one realizing that she had pushed me too far. But I wasn't coming back, because just like she had once decided she didn't want to hug me anymore, I had decided I would never acknowledge her again. Sophia didn't try to fix things right away. At first, she thought it was just a phase, that maybe I was sulking, maybe I just needed a little time to get over it. But as the days turned into weeks, she started to realize this wasn't temporary. This was permanent. I wasn't angry. I wasn't lashing out. I wasn't trying to hurt her. I simply did not care anymore, and that was killing her. One night, she tried to test me again. She walked into the bedroom, wearing lingerie, the same set she had worn on our honeymoon, the one she knew I used to love. She leaned against the doorframe, watching me as I stood near the dresser, getting ready for bed. "Hey," she said softly, her voice carrying that sultry tone she used to use when she wanted something. I glanced at her once, then turned back to my watch, adjusting the strap as if she wasn't even there. Her expression crumbled instantly. For the first time, I saw something I never thought I'd see from her: desperation. "Mark," she whispered, stepping closer. "Please say something." I turned to her, my face blank. "Why?" She swallowed hard. "Because I don't like this. The way things are." I let out a quiet breath, staring at her for a long moment. "You don't like this?" I asked, my voice calm. "That's interesting, because I remember hearing you say you didn't even want to hug me anymore. So why would you care if I don't talk to you?" Her face went white. I had never seen her look so shocked, so guilty, so caught off guard. She opened her mouth, but nothing came out. "Yeah," I nodded, stepping past her toward the bed. "That's what I thought." I climbed under the covers, turned my back to her, and shut off the light. I heard her breathing change, heavy, uneven, shaking. And then, I heard her sniffle. I felt the bed shift slightly as she sat down beside me, crying softly. But I didn't turn around. I just lay there, staring at the wall, feeling absolutely nothing. She could cry all she wanted. She could finally feel the loneliness that I had felt for years. But it wouldn't change a thing, because just like she had chosen to pull away from me, I had chosen to walk away from her emotionally. And that was a decision I would never take back. From that night forward, everything flipped. Before, I had been the one seeking her attention, the one trying to keep the marriage alive. Now, she was the one chasing me. She started cooking my favorite meals, setting the table nicely like she used to when we were first married. I ate in silence and never complimented the food. She started texting me during the day. "Hey, how's work?" I left her on read. She started trying to be affectionate, small touches here and there, but I would move away as if I hadn't noticed. She would stare at me sometimes, looking completely lost, like she was realizing just how badly she had screwed up. But I didn't care, because the truth was I was already done with her. and no amount of effort was going to fix what was already broken. One evening, after weeks of silence, she finally snapped. She stood in front of me, her arms crossed, her eyes filled with frustration and fear. "Mark, talk to me," she demanded. I looked up from my laptop, raising an eyebrow. "About what?" She let out a frustrated breath. "About us. About what's happening. You're treating me like I don't even exist." I leaned back in my chair, staring at her. "I thought that's what you wanted." "I never wanted this," she blurted out. I don't know why I said those things, okay? I was frustrated. I was venting. "No, Sophia." I cut her off. "You were being honest. And you know what? That's the only thing I can thank you for." She froze. What do you mean?" I shut my laptop, standing up slowly. "You showed me the truth," I said calmly. "You showed me that I was wasting my time, that I was in a marriage with someone who didn't even want to be near me. And for that, I'll always be grateful." Her breathing hitched. "Mark, please, we can fix this," she whispered. I shook my head. "No, we can't. Because I'm done trying to fix things with someone who never cared in the first place." Her lips trembled. "So what?" She swallowed hard. "You're just gonna leave?" I stared at her for a long moment. "Yeah," I said simply. Tears spilled down her face. "Please," she begged, her voice cracking. "I don't want to lose you." I gave her a sad smile. "You lost me a long time ago." And with that, I walked out of the room and out of her life. Sophia tried to reach out after I left. She called. She texted. She even showed up at places where she knew I'd be. But I never responded, because I was done. And as the months passed, I thrived. I focused on myself, hit the gym, grew my career, started traveling, and eventually, I met someone new, someone who actually valued me, someone who wanted to be close to me, someone who never made me feel like a burden. And one day, I ran into Sophia by accident. She looked different, tired, hollow, like someone who had learned her lesson too late. She opened her mouth to speak, but before she could, I just smiled, nodded, and walked away. Because she was nothing more than a mistake from my past. And me? I was finally free. If someone says they don't want you, believe them the first time. Don't argue. Don't beg. Don't try to make them see your worth. Just walk away. Because the moment you do, that's when they realize you were the best thing in their life. And by then, it's too late for them. When I first met Emily, she was like a force of nature, bold, confident, and always in control of every room she entered. She wasn't like the other women I had dated before. She had a sharp mind, a strong personality, and a way of speaking that commanded attention. If she wanted something, she went after it. If she had an opinion, she voiced it. There was no hesitation, no uncertainty. She was sure of herself, sure of her decisions, and sure of her future. And I admired that. I had always been the kind of man who wanted to support his partner, to help her grow, to be the one she could rely on when things got tough. And Emily? She was ambitious, driven, and focused. At first, it felt like we were the perfect match. We started dating shortly after meeting at work. It wasn't an office romance that started with sneaky glances across the meeting table or secret notes. No, Emily didn't play games. One day, she walked up to me in the break room, leaned against the counter, and said, "So, are we going to keep pretending there's nothing here? Or are you finally going to ask me out?" I laughed, caught completely off guard, but I loved her confidence. "All right," I said, smiling. "How about dinner tomorrow?" "Perfect. Just don't take me anywhere boring." That was Emily, direct, fearless, and completely sure of herself. We clicked almost instantly. We had inside jokes that only we understood. We had lunch together every day, talking about work, life, and our goals. We stayed late at the office sometimes, motivating each other to push forward in our careers. Looking back, I should have seen the signs. Emily had a sharp tongue. It was part of her personality. She was the kind of person who spoke her mind, and sometimes that meant being a little harsh. At first, I brushed it off. She would make small jabs at me. Things like, "You're too nice, Jake. Sometimes I wonder if you have it in you to really fight for what you want. You're so patient. I don't know how you put up with people's stupidity. You should be more aggressive at work. People like you get walked all over." She would say these things half-jokingly, with a smirk, and I would laugh it off, telling myself it's just who she was. But over time, the jokes felt less like jokes. On weekends, we'd go to coffee shops, work side by side, and dream big about where we wanted to be in 5 years. She challenged me in ways that no other woman had. She was fierce and determined, and she pushed me to be better, sharper, stronger. And I supported her every step of the way. Whenever she doubted herself, even though she rarely showed it, I was there, reminding her how capable she was. When she had a big presentation, I helped her practice. When she was stressed, I took care of everything else so she could focus. When she wanted to climb higher in the company, I cheered her on. I believed in her. And for a while, I thought she believed in me too. At some point, Emily stopped being the woman who used to lean in when I spoke, who used to laugh at my terrible jokes, who used to light up when I walked into a room. She became colder, more distant, not just with me, but in general. She started texting less. She stopped waiting for me at lunch. Sometimes, she'd eat with other people and not even tell me. She was short with me in conversations, as if I was annoying her. At home, she was distracted, always on her phone, barely making eye contact when I spoke. At first, I chalked it up to work stress. She had been pushing hard for a promotion, working late, dealing with pressure. I figured she was just exhausted. It's just a rough patch, I told myself. She still loves me, but deep down, I felt something wasn't right. She didn't argue with me. She didn't fight with me. She just stopped caring enough to engage at all. And that was worse than any fight. The worst part about all of this? We worked together. That meant that even when things were tense at home, I still had to see her every day, pretending like everything was fine. But the way she treated me at work, it was different. Emily was a star employee. Everyone admired her, respected her, listened when she spoke. She had built a reputation for being a powerhouse, and I was proud of her for that. But something changed. She stopped treating me like a partner and started treating me like a colleague she didn't particularly respect. In meetings, she talked over me. When I made a suggestion, she'd dismiss it like it was irrelevant. Sometimes, she'd even mock me in front of others, making me look weak. And people noticed. I heard whispers. Is everything okay between Jake and Emily? Dude, does your girlfriend even like you? Man, she's kind of ruthless with you in meetings. And the worst part? I defended her. She's just passionate, I'd say. She takes her work seriously. She's under a lot of pressure, I'd explain. But deep down, I knew the truth. She was losing respect for me, and I was letting it happen. I started pulling away without even realizing it. I stopped texting her as much. I stopped initiating conversations. I stopped trying so hard to make things better. And for the first time, she noticed. Jake, are you mad at me? She asked one night. I shook my head. No, just tired. She frowned. You've been acting weird. I could say the same about you, I muttered. She didn't respond, because she knew I was right. Then came the breaking point, the moment where she showed her true colors in front of everyone. It wasn't just a bad day. It wasn't just frustration. It was intentional. She cursed me out, humiliated me, made me look small in front of all of our colleagues. And the worst part? She didn't even care. She laughed. She smirked. She acted like I was nothing. And that was the moment something inside me snapped. I wasn't her punching bag. I wasn't her doormat. I wasn't someone she could tear down just to make herself feel powerful. And from that day forward, I made a decision. I was going to make her regret it. After that day, the day Emily humiliated me in front of everyone, I made a decision. I wasn't going to yell. I wasn't going to argue. I wasn't going to give her the satisfaction of seeing me break. I was going to walk away. For years, I had been the man who stood by her side, who supported her career, who believed in her even when she was ruthless toward me. And for what? So she could tear me down in front of everyone like I was some kind of joke? No, that was the last time. And Emily was about to learn what life felt like without me in it. At first, she didn't notice the change. She probably thought I would just move on like I always did, that I would just shake it off, let it go, and act like nothing had happened. But this time I didn't. I stopped responding to her texts. I stopped waiting for her at lunch like I always used to. I stopped making excuses for her behavior when people asked if we were okay. At work, I was silent, not out of weakness, but because I simply did not care anymore. She would walk into the office, and I wouldn't even look at her. She would speak in meetings, and I would act like she wasn't in the room. For the first time in our entire relationship, Emily had lost control, and it drove her insane. At first, she tried acting normal, like nothing had happened. "Hey, are we still grabbing coffee after work?" she asked casually one morning. I didn't even glance at her. "No." Her smile faltered. "Oh, okay. Well, maybe later." I stood up, collected my things, and walked away without answering. That was when she realized something was wrong. And that's when the real desperation began. It started with small messages, one she probably thought would fix everything. "Emily, hey, I'm really sorry about yesterday. I was stressed. I didn't mean anything I said. Emily, can we talk? Please? I feel awful." "Emily, Jake, don't be like this. You know I didn't mean to embarrass you." I read every single one, and I ignored all of them, because she did mean it. She had meant every single cruel word she said in front of our coworkers. She had meant every humiliating insult that made them laugh at me. She had meant it when she treated me like I was beneath her. The only thing she didn't mean? The apology. She wasn't sorry for what she did. She was sorry that I finally stopped chasing after her. It took about a week of cold silence before Emily finally cracked. I was sitting at my desk, reviewing reports, when I heard her voice from behind me. "Jake, can we talk?" I didn't even bother looking up. "I'm busy." She hesitated, but then sat down in the chair across from my desk. "Please," she whispered. I don't like the way things are between us." I let out a small laugh, finally looking at her for the first time in days. "You don't like it?" I asked. "What exactly do you not like, Emily?" "The fact that I finally stopped chasing you? That I finally stopped making excuses for your behavior." She bit her lip, her eyes glassy with guilt. "Jake, I swear I didn't mean to say those things. It was just work pressure. I got frustrated. I lost control." "No, Emily," I interrupted. "You were in full control when you called me useless in front of everyone. You were in full control when you mocked me, when you humiliated me, when you made me feel like I was nothing. That wasn't an accident. That was you." Tears welled up in her eyes. Save it," I said coldly. She swallowed, looking completely helpless. "I love you, Jake," she whispered. I stared at her for a long moment, letting the words sit there between us. And then I laughed. I actually laughed. "No, you don't," I said simply. Her face twisted in pain. "Yes, I do. I wouldn't be here if I didn't." "You don't love me," I repeated. "You love having power over me. You loved knowing that no matter what you did, I would still be there trying to make things work." She shook her head. "That's not true." "It is," I said, "because if you actually loved me, you wouldn't have treated me like trash in front of the entire office. If you actually loved me, you wouldn't have made me feel like a joke." Her lip trembled. "Please, Jake, just tell me how I can fix this." I stood up, grabbed my coffee, and looked her dead in the eyes. "You can't." And then, without another word, I walked away. After that day, Emily tried everything. She sent long apology texts that I never answered. She asked mutual friends to talk to me on her behalf. She even waited for me after work, hoping to accidentally run into me. But I was done. And as time passed, I thrived while she fell apart. At work, I focused on myself. I stopped helping her, stopped covering for her mistakes, stopped making her look good. And people noticed. They saw that she was never as strong as she pretended to be. She had just been leaning on me the entire time. Her performance started slipping. She stopped being the office favorite. And eventually, she got demoted. And me? I got promoted. I became exactly the man she never thought I could be. The man who didn't need her approval, her validation, or her love. And when she saw me succeeding without her, that's when she realized just how badly she had lost. Months later, I ran into her at a cafe. She looked different. Not confident. Not powerful. Not untouchable. She looked small. "Jake," she said, almost breathless. I smiled. "Emily." She hesitated. "How have you been?" "Great," I said. "Best I've ever been." She swallowed hard. "I miss you." I nodded, setting my coffee down. "I know." She waited, as if hoping for something more. But there was nothing left to say. I grabbed my drink, turned my back to her, and walked away without looking back. Because she wasn't worth a second chance. She wasn't even worth a second thought. And for the first time in my life, I was finally free. If someone humiliates you, belittles you, or treats you like you're disposable, walk away. Don't argue. Don't fight for them. Don't try to make them see your worth. Because the moment you stop caring, that's when they realize you were the best thing in their life. And by then, it's too late for them. That day started like any other. The sun was shining brightly in the sky, and the usual city heat made the commute to work a bit more exhausting than usual. I left home early, as I did every morning, leaving Sarah still lying in bed half asleep. I gave her a quick kiss on the forehead before heading out for another day at work. My job wasn't the best in the world, but it was stable. I worked as a supervisor at a logistics company, dealing with clients, deadlines, and spreadsheets all day long. The routine was tiring, but I never complained. On the contrary, I always worked hard to ensure we had a good standard of living. Sarah also worked, but her hours were shorter, and most of the time, by the time I got home, she was already there. The day went by like any other. Long meetings, discussions about delayed shipments, and the usual flood of emails to respond to. During my lunch break, I sent Sarah a message, asking if she wanted me to bring something special for dinner. She replied with a simple, whatever, no emojis, no follow-up questions about my day. That bothered me a little, but I brushed it off. I figured maybe she was tired or busy with something at work. I left the office around 6 in the evening, enjoying the orange sky and the soft evening breeze. I always like this time of day, the feeling of finishing work and heading home to relax with my wife. The drive was peaceful, the radio playing a soft tune that matched the pleasant atmosphere. When I pulled into the driveway, I noticed that the house was unusually quiet. Sarah was home, but she hadn't heard me come in. The front door was slightly ajar, and as I stepped inside, I heard her voice. At first, I didn't pay much attention to what she was saying. I assumed she was on the phone with her mom or a friend, talking about random things from her day. But as I got closer, her words started becoming clearer. "Oh, girl, I don't even know how I put up with this for so long," she sighed, sounding exhausted. "He's such an idiot, such a boring man. Sometimes I wonder what I'm even doing with him." I froze in place, standing in the hallway, holding my breath. My heart skipped a beat, but I didn't make a sound. Instinctively, I took a step back and leaned against the wall, listening. "No, of course I don't feel attracted to him," she continued, letting out a short laugh. "We barely even touch anymore. He thinks I'm just tired from work, but honestly, it's because I can't stand this boring routine with him anymore." Her words stabbed through my chest like knives. I wanted to believe I had misheard, that maybe she was talking about someone else, but no, she was talking about me. Me, the husband who did everything to make her happy. Me, the man who came home exhausted but still tried to be present, who made plans for our future, who believed we were building a life together. I swallowed hard, clenching my fists, but I kept listening. Honestly, if it weren't for convenience, I would have left already. But breaking up now would be such a hassle. He pays for everything, gives me stability, and to be honest, I don't want to start over from scratch. I'd rather just go along with it, at least for now. I felt like I had been punched in the stomach. So that was it? I wasn't a husband to her. I was just a financial safety net, a convenient provider while she pretended to be happy in our marriage. I took a deep breath, trying to keep my emotions in check. Anyone else would have barged into that room right then and there, demanding answers, yelling, throwing accusations. But I didn't. I didn't scream. I didn't break anything. I didn't cause a scene. I just stood there, absorbing every word, every cruel revelation coming from the mouth of the woman I thought I loved. My mind raced. Part of me wanted to storm in and ask her straight to her face what I really was to her. I wanted to see her stumble over excuses, watch the panic in her eyes when she realized I had heard everything. But another part of me told me to stay calm, not to react. I needed to process this. I needed to decide what to do next. Sarah continued speaking, her voice now softer, as if sharing a secret. "And there's more. I met someone, a guy who's amazing, handsome, smart, funny. Nothing like Ethan." My blood ran cold at the sound of my own name coming out of her mouth with so much disdain. "Nothing's happened yet, but I can tell he's interested. And I'm interested too." She laughed again, and the sound felt like a slap across my face. My heart pounded in my chest, but I remained still. She was already planning to replace me. If I hadn't overheard this conversation, I would have gone on for months without realizing what was happening. I would have continued believing our marriage was just going through a rough patch, while Sarah was already making plans to move on without me. Right then and there, I made a decision. I wouldn't confront her, not yet. I wouldn't give her the satisfaction of trying to lie her way out of this, of playing the victim or making up some excuse. I had to be smarter. I turned around and walked out the way I came, silently. Back in the garage, I got into my car and sat there for a few minutes, taking deep breaths. I turned on the radio and let some random song play while my mind raced. I wanted revenge, but not just any revenge. I wanted to destroy Sarah in the same way she had just destroyed me, without her even seeing it coming. After a few minutes, I turned off the car, grabbed my briefcase, and walked back into the house as if nothing had happened. "Hey, babe," Sarah said when she saw me. Her voice was sweet, fake, as if nothing had happened. As if I was still the perfect husband she pretended to be happy with. I looked her in the eyes and forced a smile. "Hey, love, how was your day?" She smiled back, completely unaware. But at that moment, my mind was already working on a plan. She had no idea what was coming. The days that followed were a true test of my patience. After hearing Sarah talk about me with such coldness, as if I were just an unimportant side character in her life, I wanted to act immediately. I wanted to corner her, to force her to confess everything. But I held back. I pretended nothing had happened. I forced myself to keep smiling, to maintain my routine, to act like the perfect husband she thought she could deceive. I wanted to see how far she would take this charade. I wanted to know if she had the audacity to keep looking me in the eyes and pretending to love me while, in reality, she was already considering replacing me. During those days, I observed everything. The way she behaved around me, the subtle changes in her expressions when I hugged her, the way she smirked at her phone when she thought I wasn't looking. I knew exactly what was going on, and each detail filled me with a mix of anger and disgust toward her. And then the moment arrived. I couldn't keep it inside me any longer. That night, I came home to find Sarah in the kitchen, scrolling through her phone while waiting for the food to heat up in the oven. "I need to talk to you." My voice came out firm, controlled. She looked up at me, surprised by my serious tone. "What is it? Did something happen?" I crossed my arms and stared at her, feeling my heart hammer in my chest. "I heard you on the phone the other day," I said bluntly. "You called me an idiot. Said you weren't attracted to me. That you're only with me out of convenience." Her face turned pale instantly. Her eyes blinked rapidly, as if trying to process what I had just said. "What?" She let out a nervous laugh, setting her phone down on the table. "What are you talking about?" "You know exactly what I'm talking about, Sarah." I continued, my voice unwavering. "You were in the bedroom, talking to a friend. You said you can't stand me anymore, that you met someone else." I heard everything. The silence that filled the kitchen was suffocating. For a second, I thought she might just admit it, that maybe she'd try to explain herself. But no. She shook her head and laughed, a shaky, uncertain laugh, trying to keep her composure. "Babe, you must have misheard." Her voice softened into a pleading tone. "I would never say something like that about you. You must have misinterpreted something." My patience was already hanging by a thread, and that only made it worse. "Don't treat me like an idiot, Sarah. I know exactly what I heard. Do you really think you can fool me? That I'll just believe this was all some misunderstanding?" Her eyes widened, as if she were offended, and then the performance began. "Oh my God, Ethan, how can you even think that of me?" Her voice cracked, and tears started forming in her eyes. "I love you. How could you believe I'd say those things about you?" Now she was trying to flip the script, trying to play the victim. I laughed, but it was a dry, humorless laugh. "You can cry all you want. It won't change the fact that I heard every word." Sarah stared at me, her eyes glistening with what seemed like genuine tears. But I knew the truth. I knew this was nothing but a desperate act. "Ethan, please." She stepped closer, reaching for my hand, but I pulled away. "No," I cut her off. "You're not going to make a fool out of me. I refuse to be the idiot you think I am." That was the moment the game changed. Her tears disappeared as fast as they had come. Her expression hardened, shifting from pleading to frustration. "So what do you want?" Her voice turned cold. "You want me to say what you want to hear?" I want the truth. I stood firm. The truth. She crossed her arms and scoffed. You want the truth? Fine. Maybe I said some things in the heat of the moment, but it's not how you're making it out to be. Oh, really? I mocked. Calling me an idiot and saying you're not attracted to me means something else. Then, she bit her lip and looked away, as if searching for a way to patch up the situation. I was frustrated, she exclaimed, throwing her hands up. It was just a conversation between friends, Ethan. Haven't you ever vented to a friend when you were annoyed? That was it. My patience had officially run out. So that's it? You were just venting about how I'm nothing to you? How I'm just a financial safety net while you decide if I'm worth keeping around? You're exaggerating, she shouted, now clearly irritated. I'm exaggerating? I slammed my hands on the table. You humiliated me, Sarah. You talked about me like I was some dead weight in your life. She stayed silent, crossing her arms, visibly frustrated. You know what? She finally said. I'm not going to stand here and be judged. I have the right to vent to my friends. If you didn't like what you heard, that's your problem. I stared at her, feeling my anger bubble in my chest. So that's what you really think? She didn't answer. She just looked away. That was all the confirmation I needed. There was nothing left to say. What I felt for her at that moment was no longer love. It wasn't sadness. It was just emptiness. From that day on, our home became a silent battlefield. I still slept in the same bed as her, but the space between us was immense. We barely exchanged words beyond the necessary. Dinner together became non-existent. She tried to act like nothing had happened, but I could see it in her eyes. She knew I would never look at her the same way again. The game had changed, and inside me, something was growing. It wasn't sadness. It was revenge. After that fight, something inside me died. The love I once felt for Sarah vanished like dust in the wind. I spent days and nights replaying her words in my head, remembering the cruel way she had described me to her friend. An idiot. A dull, lifeless man. A dead weight in her life. I could have taken a different path. I could have begged for her respect. Could have tried to salvage our marriage. But no, I wasn't a man who accepted being made a fool of. If she wanted someone worthy of admiration, attractive and desirable, then that's exactly what I would become. But not for her. For me. In the days that followed, I started changing my routine. I went back to the gym, something I had neglected due to work and the routines of married life. I focused on myself, on my appearance, my well-being. I bought new clothes, changed my haircut, and started taking better care of myself than ever before. And most importantly, I started going out. Sarah noticed. At first, she pretended not to care. When I went out for dinner, came home late, or spent more time on my phone than usual, she would just watch me from the corner of her eye, biting her lip, trying to act as if it didn't bother her. But I knew her too well. She was bothered. And that was just the beginning. She was nothing like Sarah. Beautiful, confident, charismatic. We met at a company social event. And from the moment I saw her, I could tell she was the kind of woman who radiated magnetism. Isabella was independent, self-assured, and most importantly, she enjoyed my company. I didn't have to try hard to impress her. Unlike Sarah, who had begun treating me like an inconvenience, Isabella saw something valuable in me. We talked for hours, went out for dinner, laughed together. And when I realized that Sarah had started paying attention to all of this, I decided to push the game even further. I began subtly integrating Isabella into my life, but in a way that made an impact. I posted pictures of us at fancy dinners, checked in at upscale restaurants, and appeared at events smiling beside her. And since I knew Sarah still stalked my social media, I knew it was eating her alive. What was once fake indifference quickly turned into silent rage. I noticed the changes in her behavior. When we passed each other at home, she would glance at me with a mix of frustration and resentment. She couldn't stand seeing me happy without her. Then one day, I overheard her talking to a friend on the phone. I don't know what happened. He used to be such a fool, such a pushover. And now he's out there, parading around with that perfect woman. Her voice was laced with frustration. Her friend tried to console her, but Sarah was falling apart. Did you really think he would never fight back? Her friend asked, hesitant. I thought he would be sad. I thought he would apologize. that he would try to convince me I was wrong. But he just moved on like I never even existed. A smirk formed on my lips. That was exactly what I wanted. Sarah started losing control. She began trying to get closer to me again, subtly at first. Small comments, casual questions about where I was going, whether I'd be home late. Then, she became more direct, complimenting my appearance, making playful remarks about how much I had changed. But I knew the game she was playing, and I wasn't interested. The final blow came on one particular night. I was getting ready for a dinner date with Isabella when Sarah, dressed in just a robe and barefoot, appeared at the bedroom door. Her expression was different. There was no arrogance, no cold superiority. There was fear. Fear of losing me for good. "You're going out again?" Her voice was hesitant. I glanced at her in the mirror while fixing my collar. "Yes." She took a deep breath, crossing her arms. "With her?" I smirked slightly. "Does it matter?" She bit her lip, looking away. But I saw it. Her eyes were glossy with tears. "Ethan," she finally whispered, her voice trembling. "Can we talk?" I turned to face her, my expression calm, controlled. "About what?" "About us. About what's happening." I crossed my arms, waiting. But I said nothing. I let her speak. I think I made a mistake," she admitted, her voice cracking. "I said horrible things, I know. But I was confused. I didn't really mean them." She took a step closer, but I didn't move. "You didn't mean to call me an idiot? To say you weren't attracted to me anymore? That you were only with me out of convenience?" She flinched at hearing her own words thrown back at her. I don't know why I said that. I was frustrated. You were looking down on me, Sarah." I cut her off, my voice firm. "And now that you see I've moved on, that another woman actually values me, you want to take it back?" She shook her head, tears streaming down her face. "That's not it. I just don't want to lose you." There was a time when hearing that from her would have been everything I wanted. But that time was long gone. I walked past her, grabbing my wallet and car keys. Before stepping out, I turned back to look at her one last time. "You already lost me, Sarah," I said, my voice calm but final. "The moment you treated me like I was nothing." And with that, I walked out, leaving her standing there, crying, out of excuses, drowning in regret. Because in the end, my greatest revenge wasn't just moving on. It was showing her that she would never have another chance to have me back.